ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Knowledge Pool. My name is Alex. I'm joined here with Todd and Orion. We are going to be sitting here talking to you guys about our first times playing Magic. A little bit of introductions first. Like I said, my name is Alex. I've been playing Magic since freshman year of high school, 2013, 2014. I don't know how long ago that was. I was 14 years old, so yeah. We also have Todd here. Todd, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, so I play Magic as well. That's it.
All
I'm
right.
another dude who plays Magic. Happens to be roommate.
We also have Orion here.
How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Orion, and I've been playing Magic since 2015, which is about Khan's Block. Fate Reforged was my first set, and the newest set, I think, when I first joined.
So basically what this podcast is going to be about, we're going to be talking about different things related to Magic each week. And we will be figuring out what each of those things are. At the end of each episode, we'll decide who's going to make up the next subject, and then we'll go from there for the next week. I'll go ahead and start off. Started playing Magic freshman year. It was right around Return to Ravnica. Return to Ravnica right between Theros, so what would that be, like M14, M13, somewhere around there?
Something like that.
Yeah. So what I used to do, we'd play in the band room, and we didn't have like tables or anything like that because it was just like a big open lot, and then you just like grab like a fold out chair. So what we would do, we would walk over to the marimbas, and we would play on top of the marimbas.
Oh, no.
Oh my god, it was terrible. We got yelled at so many times. I had no idea like what it was when I first saw it. Like all my buddies were playing, and I was like, what the hell is all this? And like I was interested, but like I thought it was for nerds and all that. So I decided to every time I'd walk by, I would like run up, like tap the creatures and whatnot, and then run away because I had no idea what was going on. Then one day I just kind of broke. It was really funny. I was like, all right, teach me how to play. So I had my buddies Ethan and Jacob. They like ran me through. These decks were like terrible. Like the number one card there was Turlin the Sky Summoner, where we cast instant or sorcery, you get a 2/2 Drake. That was the best card in the entire school. My buddy Ethan, he was like, yeah, go ahead and take this deck home and teach yourself how to play. We all know Magic really isn't a one-player game, especially back then. So I would just sit in my room, because the Sky Summoner was actually it was a foil one, and I would like lay all the cards out. They weren't sleeved or anything like that. Actually, no, I take that back. Like half of the cards were sleeved, and it wasn't even like, like we're just grabbing like these cards. Like half of the cards sleeved were basics, half the cards sleeved were like $1 or whatever. Like like the cards that looked cool had a sleeve in them, and then the other ones didn't.
Yeah,
So I would
just leaving random things you had because you didn't know what they were worth.
Yeah, exactly. No, it wasn't even that they were worth. It was just like, oh, you have a sleeve because the sleeve would split, and we're all 14 years old, so we didn't get new sleeves. So I ended up taking them all out of sleeves. I would like lay them out flat, and then I would like take a guess at like which card was which, and then like I would like give myself points, and I was like, yeah, this is how you play the game.
That's what you had when you didn't have friends, but you still wanted to play Magic.
Well, it wasn't even me, like, I didn't even know how to play at that point. It was, like, I didn't get cards until I was, like, with my grandma. And I saw them when we were in Walmart. I saw a fat pack of Gay Crash. So I asked I asked my grandma, I was like, hey, let me, can I have this? They were like, I don't know how much was a fat pack? Like $40?
$40, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say $40. So I asked my grandma, like, hey, I want $40 for cardboard. And she was really, really confused. But she let me have it anyway. And we ended up going to Baskin Robbins. I'm sitting there opening up cards. Like, at this point, I understood, like, what rarities were and all that. I remember my first mythic. It was a Hellkite Tyrant. It was a 6/5 flying trample. Whoever deals combat damage, you gain control of all the artifacts that person controls, and if you control 20 more artifacts, you win the game. I thought that was like the coolest thing in the world, and it was meta too because everybody was using like clue stones and all that.
It seems pretty good.
Yeah, nobody like they never understood like deck building rules too. So we all just kind of like grabbed cards. They were like, yeah, it's a 60 card deck. Like that's all we knew. So
Yeah, I make
people
it
would
like
run
a
like
lightning
5
bolt.
copies. Yeah, exactly. We had a guy that just played it wasn't even lightning bolt. It was like lightning strike and magma jet. Magma Jet's what is it, 2 mana, deals 2 damage and scry 2. I went up against a burn deck earlier. It was like it was terrible. I'm surprised I actually lost and I was actually really upset. But they were running like lightning strikes, magma sprays.
Well, yeah, and I feel like that's a trap that a lot of newer players fall into. Is once you go against burn, you kind of think about how, you know, your life total are the points in Magic the Gathering in a way. So the person with the highest life total or the most points is the one that's winning. So a lot of people gravitate when they first start towards life gain decks. And I'm not gonna say like I didn't fall victim to this. My first deck was also a life gain deck, but I'll talk about
So
that
was
in a
mine.
second.
Oh my god, it was so fun. Yeah, I'll go ahead and mention my first Magic deck. So I had like the box of like Gate Crash and all that. Like I just grabbed every card that was like a color because they had that little like stack of lands that you would get with them. So like I remember the coolest card in my deck being Dusk Mantle Seared. It was 4 mana, 2 a blue and a black, 4/4 flying, and then everybody Dark Confidanted on your upkeep. Reveal top card of your library, you lose life equal to its CMC, and then put it in your hand. I remember that being the coolest thing in the world, and I never caught grasp of the of it actually being a 60 card deck. So like my first like deck was like 85 cards or something like that. And then
More cards makes a better deck, right? You get to
yeah,
put all your rares and mythics in there.
yeah, that's why Orion exists,
Orion's
But,
a gross card. We can talk about that later.
Yeah, we can save that one for another episode. Like I remember my first sanctioned match. I was like it was right after Born of the Gods. I went to the Born of the Gods, not pre-release, but it was a fat pack duel. It was a fat-headed giant, is what they called it. And I didn't have any friends out where my dad lived because he lived right next to a shop. So he would drop me off here, and then I'd have the fat pack. I opened it up with another guy. I totally forget his name. I ended up getting a Bramaz, which is like it's the vigilance cat soldier. Whenever it attacks or blocks, you get another cat with vigilance. So I got that, and then all the bulk, and he ended up taking like what was in there? It was like Scrylands and stuff like that. Like Born of the Gods really isn't an expensive set, but he took all the expensive cards and left me with the bulk.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a little bit of a scummy thing to do, but also very understandable if you don't think someone's ever going to get far enough into the game that they're going to start selling cards.
Right? Yeah. Like you can tell by my first standard deck that it was all Born of the Gods because like every time I would go into the shop, I don't know if my dad was like trying to like win my love or something like that, but he'd always buy me a fat pack every time I went in there. So like my first not first commander deck, but like my first standard deck was it was a life gain deck. I ran the sick nasty combo of a Resco Sun Guide, 1 mana and a white for a 2/2 with Inspired, so when it becomes untapped you gain 2 life. And I would enchant it with Afara's Radiance, which is 1 white, and then equipped creature has 1 and a white tap, you gain 3 life. So I had an engine rolling. And then my payoff was Sunbond on the old Covenant Charging Badger.
The classic combo.
The classic combo. And oh my god, Charging Badger. I have a whole binder dedicated to Charging Badgers now. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it.
Oh yeah, you're very vocal about that binder.
Every time I have it near me, I'm like, hey, anybody got trades? And the flavor text is on the binder. And I tell them, like, hey, if you can guess the flavor text of this card, you can have everything that's in the binder. Nobody's gotten it yet. I've had that binder for maybe, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years. I had one guy actually I lied. I had one guy get it right, but he said he didn't want the binder because he was afraid it was going to burn his hands.
That's pretty good.
Well, yeah, that's my first iteration of Magic. Orion, you want to talk about how you started?
Yeah, sure. So back in 2015, or at least in 2014, when I got into high school, I had to choose a language to learn. And this is a bit of a roundabout way of getting there, but um, I chose German.
AO same.
And I took German for a couple of years, and it turns out my sister, who's in the military, was stationed at Ramstein Air Force Base. So I was able to go visit her after learning a couple of years of German. It was not the right time to go to Germany, I think. 2 years of study isn't long enough.
I've seen you speak it in person, and I was totally lost in that conversation. But you were pretty comfortable.
Well, I'm pretty comfortable now after, studying it for 4 years as well as keeping up with it somewhat. 2 years of study isn't enough to go to Germany or to go to the country, I'd say, unless you're really into it. I'd say at least 3 years. Anyways, I went to Germany in 2015, and my sister had to work a lot. She wasn't able to take leave and have the free time to spend with me and her husband. So it was just me and her husband hanging out in their apartment with their cats, and it was either we played video games or we'd just lie around and watch TV. Eventually, after like a week of doing that, we got bored. So he was like, "Hey, you want to learn how to play this card game called Magic the Gathering?" I was like, "Sure, I got nothing better to do." So I made some decks with the bulk commons and uncommons that he had, and eventually I was like, "Yeah, I like this game. Let me crack some packs." So I opened some packs, and I remember my first rare being a Cruel Sadist. I'm like, okay, I want to make a deck around this because this is obviously my best card. Cruel Sadist is a bulk rare. But that is the card that single handedly made me realize that my life total is a resource.
Oh, so
And
you found out early.
Yeah, I found out early. So Cruel Sadist is just a one mana 1/1 that says pay a black, tap it, pay a life, put a 1/1 counter on it. But it also has the ability of 2 and a black, tap it, remove X counters from it to deal X damage to target creature. So it was both removal and a big creature all in one. Because we were playing with a lot of commons and uncommons, there wasn't a lot of removal, so Cruel Sadist in itself was an insanely powerful card. Because it just never got removed. It couldn't be dealt with. Once I got to turn 5 or 6, it was a 5/5 or a 6/6. What are you going to do about that? Cruel Sadist just outclassed all my brother-in-law's cards. Along with that, I played other cards like Aven Skirmisher, which is just a 1 mana 1/1 flyer, just because, evasion. I learned evasion was also very strong because I can block and attack, so I can block anything. And if I attack and he doesn't have flyers, that's an immediate hit, like definitely. That seemed really strong to me. And yes, flying is a very strong mechanic, but it's everywhere in Magic.
Flying is
Other
so
cards-
underrated now.
Yeah, no, flying is. I've lost many games just to a bunch of flyers. Even if I'm playing a removal heavy deck, I'm not playing flyers, and my deck is slow and controlling. I'm just gonna get outclassed.
One of the big pioneer decks is just spirits. Alone, they
Yeah.
don't seem like much, but if you're not prepared,
Spirit together strong.
yeah.
I would make a birds with a feather fly together, but the spirits.
Yeah, and speaking of, High Sentinels of Arashin, or Arashin, is 3 and a white for a 3/4 flyer. It gets +1/+1 for each other creature I control with a 1/1 counter on it, and I can pay 3 and a white to put a 1/1 counter on any creature I control, or on any creature at all, even on my opponents if I wanted to. There are reasons to do that, but this is neither the time nor the place. But I had various synergies in this deck, like Outlast. Outlast was a very big mechanic in Cons of Tarkir in particular. Abzan Falconer is 2 and a white for a 2/3 with Outlast. It says each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it has flying. On its own, not the scariest card, because Outlast is sorcery speed. It gave all my things with 1/1 counters on them, because I had a lot of ways to put 1/1 counters on my creatures in this deck. Basically, it gave all of my creatures flying, just straight up. That's how the card worked.
Didn't I beat you with that card when we did modern, right, when we did Double Masters? I'm pretty sure I did. I got one of y'all with it.
It had to have been Todd,
Oh.
because I do not remember that.
I honestly don't recall that either. If I'm being
Aw,
honest.
man, now I sound like a liar.
No,
Interesting.
no, just misplaced memory.
Oh.
He's a liar.
Oh, hate to see it.
100%.
Maybe that's some of the arena syndrome.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Absent Falconer isn't in Arena, is it?
No, but like I don't know what the name of that other website for Magic is. Magic Online.
Yeah, Magic Online.
Yeah,
If I
perhaps
saw
on
Absent Falconer on Magic Online, I would probably uninstall it.
there. I don't know.
Anyways, I had cards like Feet of Resistance, which gave my creatures a +1/+1 counter and protection from any color, or Brave the Sands that gave my creatures Vigilance and can block 2 creatures at once. So pretty much the whole point of the deck was to make these really big flying creatures and just swing in, because I wasn't worried about removal. And if there was removal, I'd play something like Gravedigger, which it's a 4 mana 2/2 that when it enters, I can return a target creature card from my graveyard to my hand. It's an immediate 2-for-1. Gravedigger was one of the best creatures in the deck.
Card's such
But-
garbage now.
It's so bad. It's such a bad card. Like, sure, it's a 2-for-1, but that's so much mana to get a 2-for-1 when you can just play something like Kolaghan's Command. Yeah, I kind of figured out early that, life is a resource, and, there are easy ways to gain life, like lifelink. This was a big lifelink deck. There were a lot of lifelink creatures that would, whenever I would deal damage with them, I'd gain life. So Cruel Sadist was the first rare that I opened. Ugin the Spirit Dragon was the first mythic that I opened. And
Lucky.
that is what really changed the game for me. So Ugin at the time was like an $80 card, because this was the first printing of it. It saw play in multiple formats immediately when it first came out. And nowadays it's like, what, a $20 card? It still has a lot of value.
It still
I
sees
saw
play.
I saw that as like when I first laid eyes on that card, I was like, oh, it's like a reverse Nicol Bolas with his ult.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Yet little did you know, it's literally Nicol Bolas' brother.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
anyway.
no, like when I mentioned that the shop owner was like, yeah, no, they're brothers. I'm like, okay, cool. How much for that card? He's like, yeah, it's probably gonna cost you like, what'd you say, like $60? So it was probably
Yeah,
about the
$60
time.
to $80. It was insane.
The version, that Favor 4's like box topper version or whatever it is, like that thing still runs like, I think it's in like the double hundreds now.
Yeah, it's got to be at least $200 here. Let me
I didn't
actually
realize
look
was
it
a
up.
box topper.
Well,
Well, it
it's
wasn't
not a
box
box topper. It was a pre-release promo, I think is what it
Okay.
was. Something like
I was
that.
about to say, I was like, dang, because like that probably would have been one of the highest values box toppers I've ever seen.
Actually, little did you know, Ugin the Spirit Dragon, Ugin's Fate promo, only $75 on TCG
Really?
Player. Yeah.
I think, frankly, I just like his newer art from what's it, M20, the altar with the crazy looking border.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And
Or
the
I
price
guess-
has only been going down.
Because it keeps getting reprinted.
Yeah.
I
But,
mean, that's good.
Stonks.
Yeah.
Card.
I guess
Stonks.
and I'm not going to talk about like Ugin's abilities, but I guess to finish up the story, because of that trip, that's really how I got into Magic. And when I came home, I found a game store. I got my friends into Magic. I found some people that play. I traded away Ugin for a red-green Dragon's Commander deck. Dragon
A
Tribal,
whole,
Latarka.
a whole deck.
Just Dragon Tribal, and it was awful. And by awful, I mean I crushed all of my friends, so they made better decks, and then I made better decks, and they made better decks, and eventually, I started making decks that were really strong by then standards because it had a single infinite combo in it, and basically my friends didn't want to play with me once I figured out how infinite combos work in the game,
You still
So-
do that to this day.
and I still do it to this day.
Yeah, there's a little while there that I, if I saw you playing a commander that I knew had like one of the infinite combos in it, I was like very aggressive towards you for the game.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that can happen. But ultimately, combos or infinite combos, especially, are a big part of Magic, and they've been around since day one. So it's a part of what makes Magic Magic, as opposed to Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon or other trading card games.
I just figure that's one eventuality for just about every player is if you don't like the idea of an infinite combo being in Commander, you try to avoid that. It's only really a matter of time.
I agree.
Dude,
But
that or you
anyways-
just waste your entire game just preventing it. It just never comes.
But I think that's about my story of how I got into Magic. So how about you, Todd?
I started as a wee lad. I had to have been at least 4 because this was at like the first house that I can recall living at, and we didn't move. I didn't turn 5 until we were in a new house. So at least 4. My brother whipped out some magic cards, and I literally don't remember anything except for like I would immediately fell in love with the pictures. The pictures are what drew me in. The art on the cards. I don't remember anything about how the games went, but I do know some of the first cards that I personally owned was after we moved to the new house, and my brother gave me a whole bunch of his bulk. And I mean like bulk. So like I had a bunch of nothings with a sprinkle of like good cards, but that wouldn't combo with anything else. So one of the nothings would be like what's it, Gibbering Kami. It's just a 4-drop 2/2 flyer with Soul Shift 3. Soul Shift old ability. So like basically when the card is put into the graveyard for play, you may return target spirit. So it's specifically a spirit ability with the converter mana cost of the soul shift amount, which in this case was 3 or less from your graveyard to play to hand. Sorry, not even to play. You don't even cheat it out. And I had like cards like that, but no cards to work with them. So like that would be I'd have a soul shift card, but that'd be the only spirit, or I'd have like a Viscera Seer, 1-drop 1/1 sacrifice creature scry 1. Like I have nothing worth sacrificing, right? Like that's early on in the game when I was playing. I was like, why would anybody want to sacrifice a creature to scry 1 card? Because all I ever saw was paying 4 mana for a 2/2 flyer that did nothing when it died. It was like I would never sacrifice any of my things. So early on, I was very deterred from like real magic, I'll call it. It was just dropping whatever I had in my hand, and if I could attack for free, I'd attack for free. But I did learn pretty early on flying was pretty valuable, but not the way you would think. So it wasn't so much just because flying's overrated, but my uncle had a particular card, and I'm sorry, I can't really give you a name because I don't quite remember. I don't remember anything except for I couldn't attack him unless I had flyers.
Boat.
Maybe. I'm pretty sure it was a 2-color card is what I remember. I just can't remember.
The Fairies mode.
Wow, okay. That was quick. I honestly couldn't see it, and that would make sense. The choose a color, because in the earliest stages of Magic, I was pretty much reserved to monocolors because I was like, well, I can't really manage my lands well as an early player. I was like, I'm not going to play lands that come in tapped. It was just a no-go. I didn't understand the utility of it. So I was always playing monocolored card decks. And like I said, I had bulk for my brother. So I was just playing mono black random stuff. I did find though, because I ended up picking up things like imps, right? There's plenty of imps across Magic. They don't do anything special. They mostly just fly low ground, costing creatures, low stats. But when he wasn't playing things like Moat or the Fairies Moat, he was playing tribals. This is where my idea of what powerful Magic was started to skew when he would start playing cards like Eladamri, Lord of Leaves. So it's like a 2-drop 2/2. All elves gain Forest Walk, and they can't be the target of spells or abilities, or things like Well Wisher. Oh my gosh, you guys were talking about life gain being everybody's like go-to early on. This is what skewed me towards life gain. He had, I think, 3 Well Wishers in his elf deck, and they're not broken cards unless you're playing kitchen table Magic like we were. Like, if I don't run removal in my deck, and I don't remove these Well Wishers because they're 2-drop 1/1s and tap for gain life for every elf in play, easily just gaining free 10, 12, sometimes 20 life a turn.
I think this still sees play in, or at least it did see play in Pauper Elves for a good amount of time. At least
I
as a
didn't know
side
there
card.
was Pauper Elves.
If you don't remove it, it runs away. And that was another thing in my early Magic, right? I didn't run removal. Why should I bother about destroying their things if I could just put something out better? Wrong way to think about the game, by the way. I almost exclusively play like removal style decks now, or like control-y decks. Not to say that that's like where you should go. I mean, there's obviously some really good aggro out there in mid-range. Personally, though, I'm a lover of the control decks, but this was one of the reasons why I started skewing towards it. And I remember the big click was in that elf deck. He was running something called Platinum Angel, 7-drop 4/4 flyer. Literally says you can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game. A lot of people know the card. It's more of a meme card, I'd say. Like one of the more easier creatures to destroy because it hits the 4 power threshold on a lot of white removal. It's an artifact. Gets hit by artifact removal. it itself is also a creature. It's creature removal. It gets removed by a lot of things, but I didn't run any removal until one game that I was playing my uncle's deck, or some of my uncle's decks, because he had so many, and he happened to have a naturalize in one of his decks, and that made the difference in the game.
Have you
It
ever
was
heard the Pro Tour Honolulu story when it
no.
comes to Platinum Angel?
Oh no.
It's a copy pasta, but it's so funny. It's like this like 11-year-old kid playing in wait, no, it was like GP Honolulu or something like that. He played a Platinum Angel, and then his opponent cast like Naturalized, and then he said I refuse. So the guy called over a judge. And he was like, yeah, you have to let him do it. But I said no. He's like, okay, you're gonna have to forfeit. But Platinum Angel says I can't lose the game. And then he starts like taking over like the entire state of Hawaii and all that.
Okay.
Oh, it's so funny.
It's funny you mentioned that, because like it's like a misconception of rules was another big taker in the early games of like early days of Magic for me, right? Because like I said, it was just my uncle, brother, and I, right? Where referees or judges, sorry, and all we had to go off was what written on the card. So in that particular case, I know you said that was like a fake story or something,
Oh yeah, it's 100% fake.
but something like that would happen quite normally on our table of Magic, right? So like where we just read a card and assumption is made, and that's how the rules are. It's like, so for example, Dark Tutelage, right? 3-drop enchantment says at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to the card's converted mana cost. When my brother presented that card in a game of Magic, so by the way, it was like 1v1v1. Initially, he played the card and he's like, all right, so this is going on you. By the way, it's not an aura. You can't enchant a player with it. It's not a curse. But we just assumed enchantments could go wherever you wanted them. So
you were giving each other -1/-1?
Yeah, so he essentially tried to put Dark Tutelage on me and skip the idea that you were going to draw an extra card. So because the wording on it, right? So it's like, put that card into your hand. It's like, oh, that must be the card you draw for the turn. Also, this card must be allowed to go on other players. So we used to think that Dark Tutelage was just a curse that makes people lose life and reveal the one card they draw for turn. Not how that works. We had so many misconceptions about the game. For example, like if you try to cast a spell, like let's say you try to bolt something that has hexproof, right? The moment you tried to cast the card, it's too late. Like if you pick something that isn't a valid target, it's not like you can't do it. It's just, well, you wasted your spell. It goes to the graveyard now.
That's what happens normally, right?
No, I'm pretty sure it's just
It's not a valid target.
It's
So therefore
yeah.
you can't cast it. You just
Therefore
kind of
you
revealed
can't
it to
cast
your homie.
Yeah, you just reveal it. But we used to think if you did a spell, once you cast it, it's just out there. It doesn't matter if it was valid or not. You just wasted it if it wasn't gonna do anything.
That's
so
actually
like,
interesting because I'm not sure what the official ruling is on that.
I'm pretty sure if there's no valid target, you just can't cast it, right? Because you can't play a counter spell to try to get Storm going as your first spell. Like you need a spell to target.
I think in a tournament, if you called a judge over, they'd obviously give you a violation, but they'd probably rewind it back and just put it back in your hand.
Right? Like that's the thing. It's like you can't really do that. But basically, that was my really early part of Magic, and it was a lot of just tribal decks, right? Because I thought tribals was where it's at. But eventually, right, I found that there's other decks out there that aren't tribal, but they do very compounding effects that are similar, as if tribal was like a theme more so than a creature type. So like, if I'm not explaining that very well, but for example, like Delver decks, right? They're not like a creature type, but the whole deck's centric around getting stuff in your graveyard and getting things for cheaper. Delver, you exile cards from your graveyard to help pay for the Delver cost of a card.
You just had me really confused for a second. You saying Delver? I thought Delver of Secrets.
No, sorry. The Delver Delve is an ability.
Yeah.
Basically, though, for longest time I had those bulk cards. I didn't actually get my own cards until the Johnny versus Nicol Bolas. Bolas, what's it? Dual decks. Those 2-pack decks that pre-build that come together.
Yeah, I know the dual decks.
Yes, and those were the first Planeswalkers I ended up getting my hands on too. Planeswalkers changed the world for me. That was a huge mix-up on the rules too, and that actually mixes up a lot of new players. So I think that one's a good pass. The idea was that if you attacked, you could choose the player or the Planeswalker, which is true, but we used to think you couldn't even defend them.
Oh, like they just get whacked? Like it was
Yeah.
like Hearthstone or something like that?
It's like, yeah, we treated them like they were players, and the idea was that player doesn't have creatures to defend itself. Obviously wrong. You can defend your Planeswalkers.
That sounds like a good point for next episode when it comes to that actually sounds like a really good next episode. Rulings we always thought were wrong.
Oh, shoot, I just spilled my beans on that. I don't think I got much more.
No, we argue at the table all the time about stuff. Mostly me and Orion, but you know.
Oh, yeah. I guess it's fair. It's mostly with new cards, not so much like...
Right.
Hey, Todd, you want to know about Flusterstorm?
Sure, tell me about Flusterstorm, right? Tell me about Flusterstorm and Counterbalance. I'd love to know.
All right, I'll tell you about Flusterstorm in the next episode.
In the next episode. Thank you guys
All right.
thank you guys so much for listening / watching. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Watch it.
All right, have a good one.
Later.